We're very grateful to Alan and Vicky Fine for helping us bring Rabbi Menachem Creditor to Temple Beth Am on this Shabbat, and for the wonderful dedication you've shown to bringing great Jewish music to Temple Beth Am. So thank you from all of us. We truly appreciate it. For years, Rabbi Aklepi, Rabbi Greengrass, and I have been looking to the works of Rabbi Creditor to lift us in difficult moments, to soothe our souls, and to bring us closer to the divine. We've all seen him speak and perform at a variety of conferences over the years, and it's a really great honor on this Shabbat to welcome him to our bima here at Temple Beth Am. Rabbi Creditor serves as the Pearl and Ira Meyer Scholar in Residence at the UJA Federation, New York, and was the founder of Rabbis Against Gun Violence. He's an acclaimed author like myself, a scholar and speaker with over 5 million views of his online videos and essays, and he was named by Newsweek as one of the 50 most influential rabbis in America. A footnote there that I've pointed out to my students many times is that I do hold the record for the longest running rabbi came in 51st, almost 12 years in a row now. I keep coming in 51st. I'll get there. I'm one away. I'm just one away. Rabbi Creditor's numerous books and 6 albums of original music include the global anthem Olam Chesed Yibaneh, which we've sung from this bima many, many, many times, and the COVID-era anthology When We Turned Within. We've had the honor before of having his wife, Neshama Karlbach, lead services from our bima. She's a close friend of Cantor Rochelle Nelson, and the two of them have shared this bima several times in the past. But tonight, we are truly honored to welcome her husband, Rabbi Menachem Creditor, from New York, where together they're raising their 5 children. And we'd like to invite Rabbi Creditor now to share some words of Torah with us.
For the record, when that very strange ranking of rabbis, as if such a thing makes any sense to anyone, happened, the first time I was ever introduced with that as part of my bio, my kids were sitting right over there and said, "He's 49." So 51, 49, we're just about the same place. I'm not sure if every time you bring in someone for an artist in residence, it is this parsha, this Torah portion, but it couldn't fit better. Usually we read this Torah portion, Tetzaveh, with the one that we read last week, Truma, and they introduce an artist unlike any the Jewish world has ever seen. His name was Betzalel. And we understand his name as a combination of 2 words, Betzel-El, in the shadow of God. So often, when people are inspired, and what pours out is music or dance or words or tears or all of them, it is the shadow of the divine. So often when we create, we find ourselves so enraptured that we're not quite sure where the thing came from. That note, that pause, that gesture. And in moments like this, and by moments I mean the last 500 plus days of Jewish experience, what a gift it is to make space for inspiration. And so I'm grateful, especially because I don't often see myself in this way, though it's some of what I do, that we're singing and making an intentional space for song. Not only the words, but even just the nigun, the melody that captures or tries to the spirit. A good nigun, a good wordless melody in Hasidic tradition, I've always felt is a melody you knew before anyone taught it to you. It comes straight from the divine. Even if you don't use the word God, it means it just happened and none of us can really take credit for it. What a gift it is to have such a tradition, that we know that prayer has to include stuff that is beyond our capacity to create, even if we might be the vessel for a moment doing the creating. And that also points to why these two Torah portions are so very necessary. And if you're a student of Torah, if you really know these Torah portions, you probably wouldn't have said such a thing. Because Truma and Tetzaveh, these two Torah portions, for someone like me, are really hard to get through. But remember back in the day when you would get a stereo and it would come with instructions? And such a thing doesn't happen anymore. It's all integrated, and if it breaks, it's done. But back in the day, there were components that someone thought it would be a good idea to tell us, lay leaders, lay people, how to put wires into things. Red and green and black, and put this one on top and 5 feet apart. Real sound engineers still have to do that work, but most of us have no idea what we're doing. These Torah portions have to do with gold and bronze and copper and lapis lazuli and crimson threads and dolphin skins somehow. The list takes up the last third of the book of Exodus, and someone like me reads it and gets so glazy-eyed, I can't see it. But if you look beyond the descriptions into what they're pointing to, there is a really helpful lesson for us these days. I could point to the beautiful construction that we are in, itself a mikdash, a holy place for gathering, so that we can be close to the divine and each other. But it could be any material. It happens to be very nice stuff, but it could be any material that would line the walls. In fact, you don't need a wall to meet God. In fact, sometimes walls get in the way. So why did a newly freed people, because we had not been freed from enslavement in Egypt for all that long, when we were told to bring whatever we had, which, by the way, you ever stop to think about how did we have all that stuff? Right? The Torah is not concerned with that how, even though there are a few answers. It's more concerned about what you do with what you've got, however you got it. So how strange it is that we're called to give away the little bit that we've got. Could you do that? When you feel the pain of scarcity and the uncertainty of tomorrow, as we do, would you give your security into the hands of someone else? That is a very big ask, isn't it? But they do, so much so, and with nedivut lev, with a kind of generosity that defies any expectation, even with a fabulous kind of giving that we do as a people. It is mind-boggling to see what they offer. And equally, or maybe even more mind-boggling, to see what is done with what they give. Because whatever I have to give, Bezalel, the artist, knew what to do with it, and to weave it, and to carve from it, and from gold to hammer out even images of angels, to make a space not to contain the divine, because nothing could exist that could contain the divine. Anyone a fan of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark? That was fun, but not the point. The ark doesn't contain God. In fact, the text says, where did God's voice emanate from? Not from the angels and not from the walls, not even from the Holy of Holies in its construction. It's from the space between the angels. So just for a second, let me invite you to look at the person, really look at the person next to you. You don't have to stare. You don't have to look into each other's eyes if that's too much. But even if you don't use the word God regularly, when you really look at each other, the space between the two of you, or the four of you, or you and someone you haven't yet met, that space is charged with divine potential. And sometimes it takes art to remind us of that. The absence of filling the space is the point. In fact, Leonard Bernstein said that music is really in the rests, the space between. Artists are the ones who don't fill up the space, but offer it. And if we don't clutter it up, and by that I invite us to let Shabbos in a little bit, let the week out as much as you can. Make space for something that is better. I'm doing it with my hand because I need to do it too, just enough of this week. Really. So however it is that you make space within you, metaphysically, physically, singing kind of works for me. Make some space so that we can create again. Don't fill it up, even though that's what we do when we feel uncomfortable. You ever visit a Shiva house? The tradition is not to talk. We don't really listen to that rule very well. But the goal is to make space for someone who has something to say, the person who is in mourning, to speak when they feel like it, and our presence is the point. So I would invite you, on this very special Shabbat, until next week, which will be a very special Shabbat again, which is part of the blessing, to make space for something better, to hum a tune, or find some quiet, paint, move your body. Most of all, look at somebody else and let them look at you. And imagine that between the two of you, more good could be. We need more of that in the world. We really do. And the good news is, we all have the capacity to do that. I'll give you one last nugget from this week's Parsha, this week's Torah portion, just for now. And then some of us, if we're lucky enough, will learn together again tomorrow. And then the day after, and then the day after. I won't be in Miami, but we can keep going. There is a glaring absence in this week's Torah portion, Titzaveh. I usually offer rabbi points to anyone who knows this kind of trivia. Right? So anybody know? Rabbi points. What is the glaring absence in this week's Torah portion? Clergy doesn't count, by the way. I'm not looking behind me. Thank you. What's your name? Jeff. Jeff gets all the rabbi points. The glaring absence in this week's Torah portion is Moses' name. It's the only Torah portion after he is born where he is not named. And we don't know why, but the rabbis have feelings. We always have feelings. So this is one of their feelings. After the sin of the golden calf, this is in the text itself, God says to Moses, get out of my way. I'm going to destroy them and start again with you. This is hopeless. And Moses says, no, to God. No, you may not. And if you do this, says the text, Mecheni na misifracha, erase me from your book. I don't want to be a part of that. So what does God say in response? This is now the rabbinic imagination. Fine. I'll follow your lead. You wanted to be erased from this book? This next Torah portion, you're out of it. But there's a gift there too, friends. To stand in service of the world is sometimes not to fill it up with your name or your presence. It's to make sure that it goes on. And we give everything we can for that sake. So I said it gently before, let me say it really directly now. Right? Artists are the ones who make space. That's the poetic way of saying it. Let's make sure that we follow what we are called to do, which is to be agents for a world that has space for other people. People who disagree, people who are different, people who are vulnerable. We learned that lesson 210 years in a row in Egypt. And we were still capable of great art. We can do it today too. Shabbat Shalom.